It's Lisa with Artful Fairy Designs, and today we're going to paint this really cute Be My Valentine. Oh, his little arms fell. Be My Valentine um, snowman. I'm going to get him for you and show you what he looks like. And here he is. Look how adorable he is. Oh my gosh, you could change up the colors if you wanted to and do different colors on your scarf or on the base. But he's really cute, and he's a great little shelf sitter and a cute little decoration for Valentine's Day. Okay, so let's get started. So your kit will have all the pieces that you need. What we're going to do first is I'm going to take these apart, and you're going to see that these are layered. So here you'll have your snowman, then you'll have the next layer, which is his arms, and then that next layer on top, which is his scarf. Okay, so we're going to start with the base first. So when it comes to going over the scored lines, like the Be My Valentine and his face, I am going to use a light sponge to do that. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and take a paintbrush, and we're going to go ahead and paint him all white with the paintbrush. I'm just going to skip over that area. So let me get that done, and we'll come right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I painted his body. I did not paint where his arms and where the scarf go. You could if you wanted to, but I didn't do that. And then I left the Be My Valentine alone because I'm going to use a sponge to do that. But notice I did do the face, and I went with a really, really, really light brush, and it still kind of got into some of the spots. So, which is okay because you can always use a really fine thin marker to just fill those in if you wanted to. But I'm going to take a sponge, and this is just a regular makeup sponge. There are different kinds. This one here is a little bit denser than some of the other ones. They used to have them at Hobby Lobby, or I'm sorry, at Dollar Tree, and then they stopped selling this particular one, but you can find them at other stores. So just look for these. The other ones are like yellowish. They're very different, but these are firm and they work really well. So when it comes to this part here with the Be My Valentine, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dab off some of this paint, and I'm just going to really lightly go over it. And you may have to do it a few times in order to get the surrounding area covered without really filling in that text that you have there. Right, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm also going to just give a little bit more to his face. And if you've never sponged before, it's really fun to do. I usually will do large sections with a paintbrush and then some other sections with the sponge. It gives it a different look, and it's just easier to work with, I think, sometimes in a paintbrush because you can use less. It's easier to dab it off. Okay. There. So that's that section. Right, and I'm just going to go over real quick. And I'm just going to go ahead and just do a quick dab of the sponge on the rest of this, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I just did a second coat of the white. And if you should get some white on the sides, which is very common, happens to me all the time, you can go ahead and take a marker. I have a water-based marker. It's got that on there, and I just run it across the edge, and that cleans that up just like that without any problem. So if it bothers you, it always bothers me, that's how you would clean that up. Okay, so we're good with that. I'm going to put a little bit more on the Be My Valentine real quick, make it blend in better. Okay, perfect. All right, and the paint we're using, in case I haven't told you this, I use Deco Art. So this one is Deco Art. This is just a cool white. I usually use Deco Art, but a lot of times there's all different kinds too. We're going to use a spiced pumpkin for his nose, a honey brown for his arms. I'm going to use a Tuscan red for the heart, And then this is Apple Barrel, and it's a pink polish. We're going to use that. That'll be for the scarf as well as for the red is for the scarf. Okay, so we're going to leave him dry, let him dry for a minute. All right, we'll just go to the arms next, and I'm going to go ahead and sponge that. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and sponge around there. And because his scarf is going to be up here at that top part, we don't need to do the whole thing. But I will do it up here just to make sure my corners are covered. Okay, so there's his arms. And then, well, we'll do his nose next. His nose is very little. We don't need a whole lot of paint for his nose. Just a little orange. And just remember, less paint is more when it comes to painting these things. This is really, I mean, it's a fun process. It's not something you need to get done right this second and rush through it. It's supposed to be fun. So take your time and enjoy. Okay, so this is the heart. Get some. This is the Tuscan red. So I'm going to dab that off. Make sure I got the right side up, and I do. Again, you could use a paintbrush on this just as easily. I'm just going to go ahead and use that. Less washing of paintbrushes. Basically, when I'm done here, I will just cut that off right there and still use the sponge until it's not really something I can hold in my hand anymore. Okay, so there's our heart, and next all we have left is our scarf. So because the scarf has some narrow sections on there, so I'm using a smaller paintbrush, and I'm going to go ahead and paint the pink areas first. And I'm doing that because the lighter color, it's easier to paint the lighter color and then paint a darker over it than doing it the other way around, especially with red. Okay, so I'm just going to paint that. Again, you can do whatever colors you want. This is really easy because we've got large spaces. They're going to be the pink, and those thinner spaces are going to be the red. Also, if you don't think you have a good hand for this, and you have paint markers work really good for getting into these smaller sections. So I'll probably end up doing another coat on the pink. And on your projects, you can see that there are lines there, and they serve a couple different purposes, but you want to make sure, if you can, not to cover them, so that this way it shows the definition and you can see where each one goes, where each line goes and what it's for. Like over here, and especially like in this little corner right here. So you had this little corner, so you still want to be able to see the line so that you can see it's defined right there. All right, just going to give this a quick second coat, and then we'll get on to the red. Okay, so I've put a second coat there on the pink, and now we're going to go ahead and do the red. I was going to use a red paint marker, but the red paint marker, the color of it didn't really match the red that I had on his heart, and I kind of wanted to match, so we're going to just go ahead and just use a paintbrush. I'm trying to find my small one. Okay. And because that area is really small, I'm just going to dab it off. and just come through. And a little bit more dry brushing is better. I think a smaller brush, yeah, a better brush would be good. Let me see if this, I think we'll use this pink one. Okay, I'm going to go rinse off, come back. Okay, I got a smaller paintbrush. I also turned my little light on. So if you suddenly notice that the light's brighter, that's why. Okay, much better. So as far as paintbrushes go, I have an angled brush, which is what I used for the painting the snowman. Sorry, I just took a bite of a Christmas cookie. Anyway, so I use the angled brush for the snowman, and then I'm using this smaller flat brush to go ahead and do these inside part of this scarf. You could, if you wanted to, paint this all one color and then go back. Like I said, if you had a paint marker, then you could just go back and paint these sections in. Wouldn't advise that too much with red. Red's not the easiest color to paint over. I can hear my cat sleeping. I can hear him snoring in the background. Okay, so now we have his scarf all done. His body's all done. Actually, everything has already got their first coat of paint. And this is good. We're going to go ahead and spatter this. So any little imperfections you probably won't really see as much, if there are any. And I'm also this little section here. So I use distressed crayons. They work really well for adding some dimension and just a little dab of color like around the outside of everything. But they can also be used to highlight. So I'm going to use, I think I'll use a red one. I don't want to use the black. I'm going to use a red one. And they come with these, well, they don't come with them, you buy them. Those little brushes like that. And that's good if you want to, like I say, go around, or if you want to add cheeks, which we'll do that too. All right, so I'm going to use my red distress crayon. Just going to put a little bit on. Everything is about putting it on and then taking it back off. All right, and then I'm just going to give it, see if I can do this right here. I'm just going to give it a highlight right there. Right in that corner. It's not the same as using paint. And once it's on there, you'll probably really see it a little bit better, but it just gives it a little bit of shading. Okay, so that's all we're going to do there. All right, so now that we have everybody together, I think we have everybody done. We do. Okay. I'll get all my pieces together. So I'm going to take that same pink, that was red, but I'm going to use that same one that I was just using. And before I glue his nose down and before we finish up, I'm going to put a little bit for his cheeks, because snowmen are outside and they always have red rosy cheeks. Okay, so we want to make sure we put that on there. It's always better to try to do that beforehand. Sometimes I forgot. And then when you forget, try to do it after the fact. After you put a nose on it, it doesn't really work. Okay. Okay, so before I spatter and before I glue everything together, I'm just going to take, this is a distress crayon. This is called Hickory Smoke. I used black on the one that I did initially, but I think I'm going to go a little bit lighter and see if I like that better. Wipe it off a little bit. There's already some black on here, so it probably will still be on there. We're just highlighting the edge of the snowman. And again, drier is better. Right? If you have too much on the brush, you'll really glob on there. So we're just trying to add a little bit of highlights. Okay, so I've just added a little bit there, and I'll just go a little bit up here. Won't see anything where the scarf is. Just get a little here. I'll just get a little bit around his head. This is optional. I mean, you don't have to do this. And if you're really good with a paintbrush, you could take a paintbrush and come around the outside, a dry brush, which I'm not as good with, so that's why I do this. Okay, so we have that. I'm going to put a little bit around the heart. And you could certainly spatter it first and then go ahead and do this either way. I just prefer to do it this way first and then spatter. Okay, so somewhere on there, we're just going to do his arms. We don't need to do the scarf. A little bit on his arms. Yeah, see what a difference that makes? And when you put them all together, you can really see it. But now it defines his arms and his hands a little bit. Okay, perfect. All right, now we're going to spatter. If you've never spattered, I use a toothbrush. I have a soft toothbrush that I couldn't really use myself, so I found that it was just easier to use it for painting. Some people prefer to wet the toothbrush ahead of time. It really takes a little bit of practice to figure out what works for you. Personally, for me, I find if I wet the toothbrush too much, when I go to spatter it, they come out kind of blobby and not so much round paint spatters. So that's just an FYI. You can certainly do it whichever way you want to do it. And before I do that, since I'm going to go ahead and do it all together, I am going to get my glue, and I'm going to glue these pieces down because we're going to spatter them all at the same time. So this is Aleene's Tacky Glue. It's my go-to glue. It's what I use. I know there's a lot of different glues out there. Everybody has their own preference. I like this because first it's thick, so it goes on really thick, and that's why I use the toothpick. I can just go around and move it around the where I want it to go. So it holds really well. It also has a lot of give and take. I do use a super glue. It's a gel super glue, and I like that because again, that too gives it a little bit of give and take. Hold on one second. I just noticed I missed a little spot. So that's why. So either one of those for me, that's what I use. I like both of those. All right. I'm just gonna. Okay. So there's a reason why you want to paint as high up as you can. And I could just stop the video and not do this part, but you live and learn. So you probably want to dry fit it first before you glue it down to make sure everything is covered. I noticed even his face. Oh, okay. I thought his face was covered too. It just goes to show you that even, not everybody's perfect when it comes to doing stuff. Maybe there are some people that are really good, but that's okay. Things can be fixed. All right, that's better. All right, so let's pretend we didn't do all that. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put his arms on. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and glue on his scarf. Yeah, he's shaping up nicely. Okay, then we're going to glue in his heart. This project is really easy to do. It's definitely beginner friendly. This would be fun to do with kids or to do for yourself. And there's not a lot of steps or a lot of pieces, but he's still a lot of fun to paint. His little arms right in there, or get his little heart right in between his arms. There we go. Okay, and we're going to find his nose. Now, see, that's why I wanted to make sure we already did the pink beforehand. I didn't do that on the first one. So on this one here, I forgot about it. So that's why I only got to do one side. This way, if you remember to do it, you'll get it on both sides. And you see a little bit on the top there. Okay. So there's his nose. All right, so now let's spatter. Move that out of the way. Okay, so the way that I do the spattering, I want to move it over here. I think we can still see that okay? Yep, we can. Okay. So I'm going to put a bunch of paint on my brush. I'm going to have get a little messy doing this, but that's okay. It should just wash right off. Okay, give it a try. You want to hold the brush and you're going to flick it like this, okay? Obviously down, not at yourself, but you're going to do that down. Okay, so I'm going to give it a try. Now it's very hard to see that from where the camera is. I can try to see if I can get a little closer. Let me work my way in here. That didn't work the way I wanted it to. Okay, that's as close as I can get right now. Okay, so anyways, you're going to put that right in there, hold it above your item project, and you're going to flick. Now the reason you might want to add a little bit of water to it is that when the paint is, if it's too thick, you might get longer strands of paint, where the other way you might get more dots. But if you put too much water in, it really doesn't, it just looks like wet paint. It doesn't look the same. So we're just going to go ahead and just dot this up a little bit. And again, I'll hold this up when I'm done so you can see what it looks like. Give him a little on the face. Just on his nose. There we go. And we're going to also use a paint marker to add some stuff to him. Okay. So now you can see that a little bit better. Right, see all the little dots on there? Yeah, that gives him some dimension, and it looks like he's been out in the snow, and he's really, really cute. And yes, it is a little messy. So make sure you have a towel or toweling or something on hand so that you can go ahead and wipe that off. Okay, now that that's all done, I just need my white marker, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of some highlights to him, little dots here and there. So let me just check this out first. Oh, glad I did that. There we go. Just little dots, nothing fancy. They just give a little something in the corners. You don't want to go crazy with the dots. I have a tendency to go crazy with dots, but I try not to, if I can help it. All right, we'll just put some right there, and we'll put a few right here. And I'm just going to give his nose a little bit of a highlight with the white. This is why I like the white markers. I like the pink markers because you can do that very easily. Okay. If you wanted to, and I will probably do this after, I have to put stuff in his eyes. You can go ahead and take a light thin marker, and you could go over those if you wanted to, or you could just leave them as they are. Forgot about his eyes. Give him his eyes because I kind of want some eyebrows that you can see a little bit better. I'm just going to go over the eyebrows. And then I'll probably go over the mouth too. Let's make his eyes the same. Yeah. So now we have his eyes. And you can also take your white marker and put a little dab of paint right there in his eyes. And there he is. There's a base too. You would glue this together. I'm going to do the side first. You just glue the base together, paint it, or leave it natural. Whatever you want to do. You could also, he does fit in here perfectly, but if you wanted to glue that in, you could certainly do that. If you didn't want him to move around, sometimes people want to take things apart so they can store it. So if you wanted to make sure you could store it flat, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you just glue that together. And of course, it's just newly glued, so we'll see how well he sits in there. And there he is. Oh, didn't stay in there. It's not glued in there. There we go. And there he is. Your Be My Valentine snowman. Perfect for gift giving, or if you want to put it out for display. He's adorable. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave them below. And thanks so much for watching.